This is AgGrad Live,
We have all of the different segments within the cotton.
the show that explores what it's really like to work in the ag industry,
So making sure that we get policy and regulatory issues
straight from the people who live it every day.
Hey everybody, Tim here. This is our final installment featuring our AgGrad 30 under 30. This is the 30th one we've done of the movers and shakers under the age of 30 in the industry of agriculture. We are now accepting nominations for next year's list, so would love to hear from you. Who do you think should be nominated for next year's AgGrad 30 under 30? You can do that at 30under30.ag. That's 30under30.ag and nominate someone. It'll only take you a few minutes and it will mean the world to them. But here is our 30th profile for the very first class of the AgGrad 30 under 30. We have Griffin Huelsman. Enjoy this interview with Griffin.
I didn't come from a family farming background. So, that's kind of, to me, is very interesting. When I went to college and, I knew nothing, where you had kids from, 7th and 8th generation farms who had that experience. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, that was the big uphill climb, was just trying to make a name for myself. I don't know. I mean, I could talk like hours about it. I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but yeah, I don't know. For me, that was always cool to look back and say, look where I was and look where I've come and what's the next, 5-10 years entail.
So you grew up in Louisville. What did your parents do in Louisville?
My mom was a nurse and my dad worked at a orthopedic doctor's office for a long time. He bought a restaurant with his brother right when I was born. That didn't really work out. Both kind of retired right now. But it was actually interesting. So when my brother and I we're 7 years apart, so I must have been about 5 or 6 years old, and my mom's side of the family is from South Central Kentucky, and would be my great grandfather. He was a farmer in South Central Kentucky. So I got on Ancestry.com and just started plugging some things in, and I found census reports from back early as mid 1700s, and on my mother's side, all of the families were farmers. And so I was like, okay. So when we were kids, again, 5 or 6 years old, I went to the Bowling family farm, and it said established 1787, and I was a kid at the time, so I didn't. I was like, that's cool, but it was always imprinted in my brain. And so as I got older, I was kind of thinking like what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And kind of towards high school and college, that's where agriculture came into play.
And how
And
what
here
that
we are.
Yeah. Well, what did that look like? You say agriculture came into play. How did that happen exactly?
I would have to say where I would come out to Shelby County a lot when we were in high school, and my cousin's family had bought a farm, and we would come out and help stack hay, just odd jobs. And I always loved working outside, but I felt this deep connection with working cattle. I like beef. Beef tastes delicious. So I wanted to get more involved in that. And then I kept talking to people, figuring out things, asking questions. And that's the big thing, is if you ask questions, figure out surround yourself with the smartest people you can in that industry, and just ask as many questions as you can, because that's going to help you in the long run versus anything.
Right. Absolutely. And then, so you made the decision then eventually to study ag in college, right?
Yeah, I studied animal science, and it was funny. A lot of people told me I should have gone on and been a veterinarian. I don't want to be a vet. I didn't want to go to vet school. I actually worked at a restaurant at the beginning of college, and got a phone call about working at an Angus operation. And so I went out and interviewed. They hired me and worked for them, Oak Hollow, Angus. They're out of Smiths Grove, Kentucky, and I worked for them for about 3.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And that just really opened my eyes to what beef production is, not only on the seed stock side, but the cow calf side, because they treat their seed stock operation like a cow calf enterprise, because they need to be profitable at steer and other cut weight prices. So that was really a big opening for me to grasp what beef production is.
Yeah.
And then I was very fortunate to receive an internship from Sitz Angus in Montana. They're one of the top 10 seed stock producers in the country. And it was one summer, I got a phone call. I'd applied to like 50 different internships. And you kind of forget about them. You just apply and email. And they called me and said, "Do you want to come out to Montana for 6 months?" And I sat there and thought to myself, "Yep." And I packed my stuff and went out there for 6 months. And that was a heck of an experience to be able to work with people like that and to be in that environment. There's nothing else better than that.
And so then when you graduated, did you go back to a kind of a seed stock producer type environment for full time?
No, I went to a operation here in Shelby County, worked there for about a little over a year. And then that's when I was hired on with Mulberry Orchard and Guysick Farms. And I've been with them for 2 years in December. I mean, it's been a whirlwind of learning, from the grain to the orchard, from the agritourism to everything they do, and to make everything, every crop, everything just work perfectly. That's been a real eye-opening experience for me.
Yeah. How do you explain Mulberry Orchard to somebody who's never heard of it?
If you took a black kettle pot and you threw in just a culmination of everything, that's what Mulberry Orchard is. It's not only is it agritourism, it's ag education. We do a lot of school trips. Kids come out, tour the orchard. They go out in the orchard, pick apples, peaches, go out to the pumpkin patch. They get to pick pumpkins. And for us, that's great, because that next generation, in 30 years, they're going to bring their kids out. And so they're not only gaining, getting a nutritional product, but they're getting that on-farm experience, and you don't get that. And I think one of the bigger things we see in the ag industry is the disconnect between food to table. So where we have the on-farm market in the kitchen, you can come out, you can buy a half bushel of apples, and you get that experience. And so you've got that, and then you've got the row crop farming, and the hay, the cattle, everything else. And so you kind of have to be a master at every little enterprise, if that makes sense, because you've got to make everything work and synchronize together.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of moving pieces, and Matt and Amanda have done a great job at doing that and managing it. And it's fun. It's, you wake up and because you have no idea what you're going to do for the day, because it always changes.
Yeah.
And that's the fun part about working here, is you get that experience and that exposure.
Now, so for you, having come from the city, got really into cattle, and then to take a job at an orchard, it seems like a few different kind of twists and turns in there. What convinced you that this was the right next step in your career?
I saw the potential of what they had and what I brought to the table, and what they brought to the table, experience in the cattle industry. But I wanted to further my experience in other enterprises, because diversity is a fantastic component in running an agribusiness. Because if you have that diversity, you can diversify your operation. And if you have a down market, say corn is $1.25 a bushel, and cattle's like it is now $1.10 a pound, but you've got those few other enterprises can help kind of keep the business running, versus you're not going to be filing for bankruptcy at the end of the year.
Right.
So that's kind of an interesting aspect for me, to see that, and to see all the management tools you need to have, not only in just, if we were just doing cow calf, but we're doing freezer beef, we're selling hamburger through the market, we're selling whole halves and quarters through our store. And so you've got little nitpick things, but that's what makes it fun, is because you can fine tune it every year, you can change it a little bit. And so it's a constant learning curve for me, and they've taught me a lot, and I hope that I've taught something to them about cattle, and making things more efficient on the cow calf sector. But it's just a culmination of things, I guess, and that's what makes it fun.
What do you think? I think there are a lot of farmers who do want to diversify, and a lot of them that do diversify in a lot of ways. What do you think is the biggest reason more don't diversify into like the direct to consumer, or the, you know, inviting people out to the farm, the type of stuff that you do there at Mulberry Orchard?
I think the biggest thing would be, and I've noticed this a lot, especially with a simple example would be, you know, we take a older generation and they buy a bull based upon what he looks like. They don't buy a bull based on his EPDs, his genomic, any type of value like that. They buy him because he looks pretty. So to answer that question, I would say it's a change, a lot of generational things, and it's nothing against any type of generation, but it's that fear of change.
Yeah.
And I think that's a key component, or it's just kind of not wanting to go into uncharted waters, which I think you've seen. I've gone to a lot of uncharted waters, and it can be great and it can not be so great, but you've got to go out and venture and do that kind of stuff to make not only you more successful, but the business more successful.
Yeah. And I know you also have your own cattle under the name H-Bar Angus. Is that somehow integrated with your day job, or is that completely separate? And tell us about that venture.
So I've wanted to run my own seed stock operation for probably 6 or 7 years now. The biggest thing, especially in this part of Kentucky, we're in the part of horse country. Farms are very expensive. Row crop farmers can rent farms more per acre than a cattle guy can, and that's fine. But I wanted to do something that was my own, and I came across a farm that was for rent. I talked to the landowner, and we worked out a great deal. I actually live in the house that's on the farm, so it's turned out great. I have noticed that over the past 4 or 5 years, I see a constant issue in bulls and bull sales. Is they're out of these sire companies that are the top bull of the sale of whomever, and it'll be a $300,000 bull. And so I question and I say, okay, that's great, but what has he done? What is he going to do? And the numbers are there, but what I've seen is, and I'm a big maternal guy on cattle, because I believe high fertility in cattle is the key to having an efficient cow herd, because getting the cows bred is a lot more important than how many pounds you take on the trailer to the sale barn. Yeah. That's just my opinion. I've seen a lot of the guys who've been in the industry for 70, 80 years, and they're all maternal cow herds, and they're still in business. And these guys who are chasing numbers, so to speak, aren't around as many. You're seeing some of them, you know, kind of longevity. And so I wanted to do it on my own and prove, I guess not necessarily prove a point, but do what I wanted to do for a long time. So I purchased a set of foundation maternal heifers from Oak Hollow. And I probably spent 2 weeks and, you know, getting home at night, I'm studying EPD, studying pedigrees. Who do I want? What's going to work? And they had a sheet about 75 heifers. And I grouped together in my mind the best 12. And so long-term goal is to be able to support myself, you know, running the seed stock operation to where I'm basically focusing on the seed stock production and selling bulls and females every year.
Yeah.
That's just something I've always wanted to do. And it's been a year. This has been a great opportunity for me to do it. And it was kind of nerve-wracking at first, you know, getting everything to work and, you know, making sure the components were there. But sometimes you just got to pull the trigger and go, because if you don't do it now, then when?
Yeah. And what is your on the Mulberry Orchard side or Gadzik Farm side? What's your role day to day? How do you fit kind of into the team, and what's day to day life look like for you there?
So day to day, especially this time of the year, we're out feeding cattle. Matt and his wife Amanda are the owners of the farms, and so we kind of come together on what needs to get done. Matt's primary focus is the row crop and the fruit production, and Amanda's is the fruit production as well, with the running of the orchard. And so we kind of have to nitpick on what takes priority. Now it's obviously the season's over and we're going into winter, so we're taking care of the cattle. We're out there every day, checking them, feeding them. So stuff like that. We go into spring and summer. We're getting the ground ready for planting, making sure all the equipment's ready to go. We get into hay season, so everything kind of transitions. Then we get into early fall and uh, hay season's starting to slow down and harvest is starting to pick up. Well, the market starts to pick up. You've got people coming out every day to the market in the kitchen. And so I would say from about April until November, 7 days a week, we're slammed. It's constant, you're on the go. You're out checking crops, you're checking cattle and making sure everybody's kind of where they need to be to make sure everything's running right and we don't have any issues. And that's, I think, where we get along so well is because we have fun while we work. We do some jobs that aren't very fun, but we do it because it has to get done.
Yeah.
And we can sit back and look and say, hey, look what we've done this past year. And it's rewarding. It's a rewarding feeling to us.
Yeah. How did you handle that at first? Because I think there's a lot of people that, let's say they graduate college in May and they go to work for an employer like that. And they're like June working round the clock, 7 days a week, July working round the clock, 7 days a week, August working round the clock, 7 days a week. And then they're like, wait, when am I ever going to get a break? This is not what I wanted. How did you handle that at first? And how do you maintain some semblance of balance kind of working so hardcore seasonally like that?
I would say and it was a good thing I started in December for them because it was right as their slow season began. So they could kind of explain to me everything. But when you get into it, it's, everything starts to unravel and you try to put the pieces together. And you kind of have to learn as you go. I'm a very out of the box thinker. So if I had a question, it might be something, to them was very simple, but to me, I may never have thought of it or didn't understand it. So I would ask, question whatever it was.
Yeah.
And, I think you can go online and you can literally Google anything. And that's a huge advantage.
Yeah.
Especially on the row crop side, just understanding how all of the components of that work, whether it's getting the planter ready or running the combine. If you'd have told me 4 years ago I'd have ran a combine this year, I would have laughed. And so I've always been the person to throw me out in the fire and I'll find a way to make it. And I guess you could working and handling that pressure. Everybody's different, I guess. So it's making yourself adaptable to the environment.
Right. Coming from outside of agriculture, what's been the most difficult things to learn? I bet a lot of things, it's kind of like you try it once and you sort of get it and you try to get it and then you get it a few times. But what takes the longest to really understand or to learn related to what you do?
I would say when you get into that agricultural community, I guess, and you see the disconnect from the urban connection. So where, we'll go to Thanksgiving dinner, Christmas dinner, or what have you, and people ask you, oh, what do you do for a living? And you're like, well, I work on a farm, I raise some cows, and to them, like, that's all they think. And so when you get into depth about it, and then you're like, well, we just finished up harvest, and someone asked me what harvest meant, and it kind of just blew my mind that, something to me now is so simple that to someone not in that environment or that, realm doesn't see that. And so I think the biggest challenge so far has been bridging that gap again, if that makes sense, where, you grew up in the big city, you go out to the country, and then you try and, relate it back to them. And then, so trying to find that medium has been a challenge. And for me personally, I'm just different, I guess, where I'm going to go out and do what I believe is right, whether it's taking care of the animals or staying late to get a job done, whatever it might be. And, I don't feel as though I'm trying to think of the best way to word it. Just try and do the best job you can, and hopefully your work represents itself. And then people then come in and say, hey, how do you grow a corn crop? How do you do this? And so that's the one beauty about working at the orchard is people ask questions, they want to know, and we're really focused on the ag education. So that's a kind of a relief on trying to bridge that gap with the you know urban community.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Um, going forward, what are you most looking forward to? It sounds like this time of year you're probably most looking forward to getting a break. But other than that, what are you most looking forward to, or what's the future hold for Griffin?
Well, I don't predict my own future anymore because it's either it goes away you didn't think it would ever go, or something throws you a curveball. Like my good friend who nominated me for this, and I'm very thankful that I won. Just blew me away. I was very honored. I was like, I don't deserve this honor. My big thing was there's people been in agriculture a lot longer than I have, and I didn't feel that it was just. But I think like this time of the year is probably one of my favorite because I get to sit down and look at back what we did last year. How can we make it better? How can we make it more efficient? And so, trying to start my own business now, and we're just in the planning, or we're past the planning. We're kind of in the execution stages, but I can tinker with things, and I do it every day with our cow calf operation. And I go out and maybe I fed one way today. I'm going to do it a little different tomorrow. I might like it a little bit better, and just kind of tinker with things. And so we'll get up in the morning. We might talk on the phone for an hour and just kind of figure out what we want to do for the week. And then, we'll go 6 months in advance on little things we want to change and, projects we'd like to get done. And so that's a fun thing for me to do, is just kind of, I'll go back and look at notes on, we did this, and this, and say, I don't want to do that. We made too much mud in the field. Let's try this. And so to me, I don't know why, but it's a really big enjoyment. And it sounds kind of nerdy, but it's like going back and, you're writing a book, but then you go back and rewrite it and try and perfect it every time. So that to me is not only a big management tool I have, but it's just an enjoyment because you get to see the progress you're making.
Sure. Very cool. Awesome, man. Well, I'll tell you two things on that. Number one, it's not a contest for who's been in ag the longest. It's for who's making a big impact early in their career. So very, very just in that regard. And number two, if you know other people that you think are more deserving, you can nominate them now for next year. So make sure you nominate other people for next year's class of the 30 under 30. And anyway, no, I've enjoyed this. I think you're doing some really unique stuff there too. The direct to consumer stuff is not something a lot of people have good exposure to, and I think that's probably been a really interesting learning opportunity for you there. Anything else? I always like to part with like advice. So advice that you feel like has really helped you in your career that you might pass along to others for their own careers.
I would have to say that, make your own path. When you saddle your horse and you go out on a trail, make your own trail. Don't follow the beaten path. Make your own beaten path. It's hard. Getting in this industry is hard, let alone any industry is very challenging. Go out and talk to people. Go out and meet people. I've had the great fortune of being involved with Kentucky Farm Bureau, and that's opened a million doors for me. The same goes for the KCA, the Kentucky Cattlemen's Association, and the American Angus Association.
Yeah.
Getting involved in organizations like that is a huge benefit, not only to a producer, but just even from a consumer standpoint, because then you get an insight view of all these entities that help promote agriculture.
Right.
And so I would say that getting involved in those and just, start your own path and do not listen to anybody else on how to run your life. Do it the way you want to do it, because that's the only way to live life, is live free. I've jumped out of airplanes and rode bulls, and I did it because I wanted to do it. And so I just, do whatever you want.
Good for you. You're going to write a book someday, I have a feeling. But thank you very much. I think that's probably a good place to wrap it up. I really appreciate you doing this, Griffin, and congratulations. And you're actually our 30th interview. So you are wrapping
Awesome.
things up on this series. So we got all 30 of you done. But thanks so much, and congrats again, and really appreciate the time today.
Well, thank you so much, Tim.
Thank you for joining AgGrad Live. Visit aggrad.com, that's AGGRAD, to join the community, create your profile, and learn more about careers in the agriculture industry.